Sexual energy is an extremely potent force that can seem to leave you either mad and agitated or buzzing with enthusiasm and creative energy. It propels people to go to extreme lengths in search of union with the other and acquire the desire, and without it, there would be no human species. However, it's not a quantifiable, measurable energy in the way mainstream science would like it, at least. It's something that's subjective and experiential. It's felt as desire, as drive, as energy, as passion. And whilst we may not be able to study it under an electron microscope, as it's more a description of a state or experience, for those who experience it, it's undoubtedly real and functions like a powerful, life-changing energy. It seems like most men and women have very little idea about how to manage this energy. And this isn't surprising, as we were never taught. I wasn't either. But at some point, maybe after feeling addicted to sexual release, feeling like you ran into some sexual problems, or just reading about its extreme power, we might start looking into it. Essentially, this energy gradually builds up in the body. It shows up first just as greater energy, and then starts turning into a felt desire for expression and release. This desire, with the pressure of the energy behind it, gradually builds up and up, until the urge of expression and release is so strong it seems impossibly tempting and irresistible. How quickly exactly it builds up and how we relate to that energy can depend on a lot of factors, like health, conditioning, and personal beliefs. Although the energy and the desire that it fuels can get extremely strong, it still doesn't have the ability to control us ultimately. Some say it takes willpower and discipline to not act on these impulses and instead channel this energy into something else. But it's more about relaxation and presence. The trouble is, not that many people go very far in finding out what sexual energy is like when it builds up to high levels within the body. And with the rise of internet pornography, without any moral judgment, people are even less in a position to discover its power. Most of us are in a habit of, whenever we feel the urge and that surge of energy, we instantly release it through solo or couple expression. Why? Because it's really damn fun. There's a lot of beliefs and moral judgments around sexual expression, and exactly how ethical certain industries actually are is another conversation. But if it's ethical and consensual, then of course we are free to express and release. It's just that this energy is like a currency. You can spend it on sexual expression and release, and there's no judgment or shame for that. But because it's so powerful, you might want to spend it elsewhere too. When sexual energy builds up to high levels within the body, it can feel like electricity, like a buzzing energy that could easily appear to make you tense and restless. But you can instead just be with it and feel it without having it drive you to sexual release immediately. This is the seemingly extremely difficult part. It can feel like everything inside you is fighting the urge, but you know that fighting isn't going to work. Instead, you be what you are. The space around the energy, the awareness that contains it, and you simply feel it and allow it to be. Because when the next thought says, I need to release this, you don't immediately identify with that thought and let it drive you to perhaps well-trodden paths of behavior. Instead, you relax and gently turn your attention to whatever else you want to create. Essentially, sexual energy works with a balance of pleasure and pain. It builds up, giving rise to the desire, and the desire when personalized, can have an aspect of pain or discomfort to it. There can be a discomfort or agitation in the body, and the release is positioned as the remedy for that discomfort. That's why we call it a release, right? A release of tension. However, as you simply stay aware and just feel the energy, the discomfort, and the pain and lack of the desire turns into something else. You now perceive it as simply energy, whether that's buzzing, pulsating, a welling up of feeling which you breathe into and allow to course through every nerve and every vein. And now there's something pleasurable about it. Because when you feel full of this energy, you feel, well, full of energy. Often, what can show up in life is a desire to get things done, to complete tasks and to achieve goals. And there may be things that you even really want to do and you would love doing, but you just haven't had the energy. Now, this isn't about some moralistic judgment like I've seen out there, like you've wasted your life force and you're not disciplined enough and not doing enough. No, because perhaps you're like a king or a queen, all satisfied and dozy in your four-poster bed. It's just there's also times where you want to be fired up and flowing, expanding your business, socially flowing, or just full of energy, jumping around like a lunatic. As you're full of sexual energy, you're full of energy, and you often feel compelled and driven to action. They call it delayed gratification, like delaying that taste of the ice cream on purpose so that you can continue to enjoy the moment, and it'll be even more refreshing and sweet when it finally appears. And so sexual energy isn't necessarily some esoteric thing or complex occult knowledge or something. In various wisdom traditions, it may have been called Shakti, Kundalini, Ojas, Jing, and Chi, along with all kinds of methods to manage and refine this energy. And in Taoism, breathing and energy circulation techniques are described in great detail. But I found personally that we can also be pretty simple about it if we want. If you don't release this sexual energy for a few days, maybe up to a week or several weeks, it builds up in the body as a form of energy and drive. Here's a simple yet profound secret. Just as you can move your attention from one object in the room to another object in the room, you can move your attention from thoughts of expression and release to something else in your awareness, like a creative activity impulse. You can also relax your attention, so you're simply resting as the whole space of open awareness. And within this space, this energy manifests as bodily sensations. There might be buzzing, tingling, energetic sensations, or vibrations. And you can simply feel these sensations as raw sensations. And you can also breathe with the energy and feel it flowing up from the groin and pelvic area into the chest and heart, and eventually the whole body, charged with a glowing fire. Because there's something very embodying about the ability to feel a great energy and feel great drive and desire, and yet just sit with it and let it stir. You can sit in meditation, simply being, feeling, and breathing with the pulsations, or you can allow it to drive your body to action on entrepreneurial tasks, art or music creation, socializing, speaking, or deeply listening to others or your intuition. Because after many years of research and experimenting with sexual energy, and after having gone sometimes 60, 90, 100 days without a release, I feel like I've learnt a few lessons. Now, these aren't prescriptive numbers. They're just things I did in the past, wise or not. Even just a few days of allowing the energy to build up can make a big difference. I just go deep on these things because, well, to experiment for myself and to be able to report back to you, and maybe because I'm a bit of a weirdo or something. But if I'm coaching or helping people, I want to walk the walk and see how far and deep these things go. And so I can try to save you time. The first lesson I learned is to not make a big deal out of it. Yes, sexual energy is very, very powerful. And yes, long binges of sexual expression and release can leave your body and mind feeling quite dull or flat for a few days. But it's not some moral obligation, and it's not some magic solution to all of your life's problems. You are. It's just energy. And as long as it's consensual and ethical, you can love and do what you will with that energy. But you might, at some points in your life, want to do other things with it, like a special superpower that at any time you can allow to build up and then fire in the direction of what you want to power up or create. Another lesson is that managing high levels of sexual energy effectively requires a high level of presence, or it can easily turn into behaviors that don't necessarily align with your deepest values. You might spend time with people who don't really align that well with you because subconsciously there's a desire for communion and contact that's overriding your social discernment. The key is to remember your true self. You can allow the energy to build up, but at the same time, stay aware of who you are as awareness, what you're creating, and what you're doing that aligns with your deeper truth. This is when a lot of magic happens. You may experience mysterious connections with people, new and old. You may feel compelled to write, draw, paint, program, sequence, run, or dance. You may feel a passion welling up in your heart that craves a wonderful conscious expression. Another lesson is that when allowing sexual energy to build up, suppressed emotions can come to the surface. Often, we have been using sexual release as a remedy against uncomfortable feelings, and again, no shame or judgment. I remember when I first started doing it, after about a week, I would feel intense anger. And we often think of sexual frustration, but this isn't the whole story. This anger was in me the whole time. It's just that when I ripped off the band-aids of indulging and scrolling all the time, it would surface. Eventually, my human level self had to learn how to somatically feel this anger and perceive it for what it is, just energy, emotion, energy in motion, and not to personalize it. Instead, allowing it to come to full fruition within the body and eventually dissolve. The other lesson came with regards to the so-called urge or temptation. If identified with a self that's trying to pressure myself to do a streak of abstinence or religiously count the days or hype it up too much, I would quickly go back to old habits. What I realized is that I need an intention. What do I actually want to do with this energy? When I ask this question, the judgment of what I am doing or apparently not doing falls away, and it becomes a simple, objective question about intention and energy direction. And so both can be enjoyed. Otherwise, you just flip the pleasure-pain duality. You say, I have to be doing this. I have to be on no-fap, semen retention, or my life isn't going to be as good. And you make doing the other things not enjoyable. At first, masturbation or whatever else was enjoyable, and doing the tasks felt like you had resistance and maybe even slightly painful. Now you're feeling good when you're on the streak and low after a bit of an indulgence, judging yourself. But really, in the eyes of awareness, in the eyes of your true self, it's all equal. You see, when the judgment drops away, expressing the energy both sexually and in other creative ways can be just as enjoyable. The choice is based on consciousness rather than moral judgments or self-pressure. Because in the end, sexual energy isn't something you suppress or conquer. It's something you simply feel as awareness, with clarity, with your intention. Call that mastery if you like. The real power is not in the energy itself, but in the one who holds it. And that's already you. If you're serious about coaching to co-create rapid and radical life transformation inside and out, you can apply for a free call to see if we'd be a good fit over at speaktoalex.com. If you want to release fear, embody your true nature, and create wonderful relationships or business creations, it's for you. I trust this video served you deeply. See you in the next one. Peace.